and welcome to the A to Z Sports Big Orange Podcast. I am Charlie Burris. That is Zach Reagan. Wherever you listen throughout the world, thank you very much for listening to our show. We talk everything Vols every week here on the Big Orange Podcast. And if you want to listen to that on the regular, go over to the A to Z Sports Podcast Network feed on Apple or Spotify. When you get there, rate, review, but most importantly, you got to subscribe. If you do subscribe, you won't miss our shows when we drop them on Mondays. But speaking of Mondays, it is one right now at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. We are live on YouTube, and you should go over to the YouTube channel and hit the subscribe button, and also that notification bell. If you hit the notification bell, you'll be notified when we go live. You won't miss our show. You can drop in, be a part of the show, go back and forth with us, conversate with us. It's always a great time. At Charlie_Burris, at ZachTNT, at A to Z Sports, Facebook.com/A to Z Sports Nashville, and AtoZSports.com for everything that Zach writes on the internet. Good boy. Another week down, Zach. And in the intervening time, since we did the show last, which for folks that weren't watching last week, live on air, we got the commitment of Tennessee's next quarterback. And then also the decommitment, the transfer of Nico's brother from Arkansas. And it all happened all in the same show. And since then, Tennessee has gotten exactly 0 people out of the portal. Nothing has happened. There hasn't been any news. I probably put a little bit of a dramatic headline on this video asking if Tennessee is failing in the transfer portal. I don't know that they're failing, but nothing is happening. And we're going to talk about it tonight. What's up, Zach?
Yeah, it's a few swings and misses. Not quite as fruitful as we were hoping it would be, but there's still time. This portal that never closes but does close, but we're not really sure how it works. At any time, does guys still randomly go in 5 days later because of weekend days, holidays, paperwork? I don't know. You never know when somebody could pop up and all of a sudden land with your team.
It's a weird time to be watching college sports. There's no doubt about it. I mean, I kind of thought the portal was closed. Ultimately it's not, but Jacoby Thomas officially went into the portal today. I guess did it close today? I think
it closed Friday. Night. It closed Friday, but again, there's the weekend and the paperwork has to be processed. I don't know if it's 1980s style and we've got to manually, input it into a computer. I'm not sure how it works, but I don't think anybody.
So you like on the old signing days, you had to fax in your transfer papers. The secretary at the NCAA has to get them in. She has to file them in a paper cabinet. They have to be officially, whatever it is. We found out today that he went in. People were thinking maybe he didn't, but he actually did.
The reason that people thought he wasn't going in to the portal, and that's because Boo Carter said he wasn't on Friday randomly on a random radio interview, and then,
And the fact is this, he could still not. He could still just not transfer and stay at Tennessee. Maybe Boo knows something that we don't. And that could still happen. Who really knows exactly what's going to happen there? But it's a bunch of ridiculousness. And we're going to talk about it because really, like I said, is the title of the show a little hyperbolic? Yeah, maybe. I don't know that Tennessee is just failing in the transfer portal, but nothing's happening. What's happening? And so we're going to go through all of the news that's kind of come out around the wide receivers and the defensive tackles and the defensive backs. Like there's been news there-ish, and we'll go through all of it or lack thereof. And then also basketball still without a point guard, or not a point guard. They have their point guard. Still without a shooting guard that they need. Could it be Jordan Gainey coming back for another year? We'll talk about all of that. And then baseball dropping another series. 3 of the last 4 they have lost. And I said this to you a couple of weeks ago, Zach, is it time to fire Tony Vitello? I know he had a good, not great year last year.
So, but hey, we have to face facts. He's lost 3 out of the last 4 series. I think it might be time to part ways. For anybody that thinks I'm serious, please, honestly, just go ahead and turn this off. You think I'm being real? But all right, let's talk about all of that, and we'll get into it right after I tell you about VIP play. Now, here's the thing. Oh, and I just realized I forgot to put the banner on here. I was gonna do a nice little transition away from Zen Sports. So Zen Sports is becoming VIP play, and actually, let me get the graphic, and I'll do the transition a little bit later in the show. But Zen Sports is becoming VIP play, and you'll be able to download it here in the next few weeks. But I'll give all the details here in a bit once I got to get my house in order there. Look, we are a small operation here. We don't have our own producer. Nobody put the graphic in the show. So really cool. There's a little peek behind the curtain there, but I will get it uploaded, and then we'll talk about that here in a little bit. All right. So let's talk about the transfer portal, Zach. Tennessee has gotten essentially no one in the last week, and you have needs. I mean, there are things that Tennessee needs right now that go beyond quarterback. I mean, it is, if Joey Aguilar is a quarterback, that's great. If Jake Merkling is a quarterback, if whoever, that's one thing all in itself. But especially if it's Joey Aguilar and you kind of have a guy that's new to the system and it's going to be kind of a learning on the job sort of deal, you want some serious guys a wideout. You have a couple, I think, maybe 3. And beyond that, I mean, you need somebody to do something additionally and have some more options, especially if somebody gets hurt. Because if you have the situation that you had last year with your wide receiver room, you can be up a creek without a paddle, or up a creek with a bunch of freshmen, I guess, maybe put it that way. But here's what's gone down so far. I'll just run through sort of what we know, the news that's come out of who Tennessee's been interested in, who they've whiffed on, what's happened. So there was first Trayshawn Hurry committed to Louisville before ever getting to Tennessee, even though he's supposed to just do a visit to Tennessee. Keelan Marion from BYU commits to Miami before he ever gets a visit to Tennessee. Ted Hurst from Georgia State decides to stay at Georgia State. That might be the most interesting one out of all of those, that Georgia State somehow came up with enough money to make that happen. And then Jermichael Carter was, I believe, supposed to visit over the weekend, and apparently, according to the reports that came out today, that didn't happen. Jermichael Carter from where is he from? Yes, McNeese State. So, what are we doing? What's that? I mean, when you see that, and there's more. I'll go through more at other positions. That's just the wide receiver stuff that's happened. But I mean, when you hear that, how does that hit you, Zach?
Well, I think there's a couple of reasons for it. One, and I don't know how much we've talked about this because everything blends together, our text off of here and communications and what we talk about on here. But I think the lack of a GM at Tennessee's program is something that they need. Like, they need that position, just that singular voice. The position title doesn't matter. Brent Hubbs talked about this on Ramon, Kayla, and Will last Friday. You just kind of need that voice and that person that's dedicated to roster management 24/7, 365, because that's what this has become. I don't care about when the portal is or isn't open, right? Like that really doesn't even matter. That's just when you can make things official at this point. You need somebody that can manage these problems, look for talent, work deals, have these communications with agents or quasi agents, whatever they're dealing with. I think that's one aspect of it. But as far as the actual wide receiver pursuit, I think Tennessee's just in such a unique spot where you need depth, right? Like you were saying, you need somebody that's got some more experience because you've got Chris Brazel, he's your main guy coming back. Outside of that, Mike Matthews, Braylon Staley, these guys that have a lot of upside that you're counting on, they haven't played a lot of snaps. We don't know what they're going to do in this offense until we actually see it. Like, you can have hope that they're going to come through, and maybe they do. I don't know, though, and neither does Tennessee. So you want somebody that's just done it before at any level, honestly. Somebody that's played some snaps and is like a third-year guy. And I think those guys are hitting the portal and they're looking for a more guaranteed opportunity, right? And maybe more money too. And maybe Tennessee doesn't want to pay somebody to come in and be a depth option, the same thing they're paying Mike Matthews to stay, because I'm sure that bill got pretty high when he flirted with the portal this past winter. You don't want to run off Chris Brazzell, who could probably go get a pretty good payday if he hit the portal, if you bring in somebody and kind of recruit over top of him. So you're looking for a guy that has experience, that is willing to maybe be the number 4 or 5 guy. Like maybe they work themselves into a role where they're the 1 or 2 guy. I mean, you don't know how this will play out because it's going to be all new to everybody when they take the field next fall. We don't know who will produce and who won't. There's just not a lot of guarantees that Tennessee can make there. And then they've got to try to keep the guys that they have too, because they really like these guys. I mean, Matthews, Staley, Travis Smith, Rodarius Jackson, like these are high upside, really talented guys that could be really good players in the SEC. They have that kind of talent. They were highly rated recruits. Whether they do or not, it remains to be seen. But you want to keep those guys because you believe in them, and you think maybe they're the kind of guys that can take this offense back to what it was in 22. Like they're that kind of talent. That's what you got to believe in. But you want some security there too. And I just think it's clear that none of these options want to be that security guy. They want a bigger payday. I don't think it's all money. I think it's opportunity and money, like a combination of that. And it's just a tough, it's like trying to find a backup quarterback at this point. And, we went through all of that last week, but you were never going to find a guy with much higher ceiling than Joey Aguilar, because those kind of guys don't transfer in April to join a 3-man quarterback competition, right? Like established wide receivers don't transfer in April to battle for a spot in a 5 or 6-man wide receiver room.
I think you're definitely right on all of that. And I take anything that happens in the spring portal with a pretty big grain of salt. Because if you're transferring in the spring window, it's not for no reason. And I guess I say this really about guys that transfer at all, period. A lot of times there's a reason why you're transferring. And one of those now, I mean, this is a newer reason in more recent years. One of those now is money. And so it might not be some other problem, but in a lot of instances it is. Whether it's clashes with a coach or teammates, I don't like the play style, I don't like the whatever, there's some sort of something that has happened where you said, I need to get out of here. And it's not always bad, but it's something. It's hard to just say. Like with Joey Aguilar, you got the bad end of a screw job, and suddenly you got to find a place to land, and Tennessee just happened to be there because of that situation. But it's a weird spot for everybody for the exact reasons that you're saying. Like, who your starters are, so you pretty much know that this person's gonna be a depth piece. Except to that point, I would say almost everybody that came up, except maybe the kid that committed to Louisville, the kid from BYU, I think they are depth pieces relative to what
I do too.
Yeah. And maybe it is purely just the fact that Tennessee doesn't want to shell out a bunch of money for a depth piece, because maybe they're coming out and they're going, give me $1 million or what? Surely it's not $1 million, but you never know these days.
I've seen a lot of reports that the wide receiver market is out of control, whatever that means. And we've heard numbers behind the scenes. Nothing's verified ever when it comes to these numbers, but you've heard some pretty crazy numbers, and top end wide receivers certainly are getting into the 7 figures. So who knows what these depth pieces are pushing for?
Yeah. And some interesting points here. Big Ten Jeff, who is a weird Ohio State fan that watches our show, he said no one wants to play in the gimmick offense. And then a Tennessee fan, Eric, responds and said the gimmick offense has its ups, like beating Alabama, and its lows when it doesn't work. When they shut down the run game, not every offense has to be under center play action. That's the beauty of football. You change and adapt to it, make it your own. There could be something there.
Yeah, I think that's a fair conversation, because there's 2 aspects of that. Like, does it work in winning games in the SEC? We've seen that it has. when it's had really good quarterback play, really good wide receiver play. And that's one aspect of it. And then when it comes to preparing players for the NFL, I think we're starting to get a sense that, okay, there might be something to this, because we haven't seen somebody come from the Josh Heupel offense really at any of his stops and just be like a dude in the NFL. You've seen guys have careers in the NFL. You haven't seen a quarterback come out and be like the guy, right? Like Drew Lock is the closest thing, maybe, when you had him at Missouri, and he's just kind of been a journeyman guy in the NFL. Hendon Hooker hasn't been able to get on the field yet. Joe Milton, didn't really impress at Tennessee. New England didn't want to hold on to him. Dallas trades for him for a late round draft pick. And specifically with the receivers, Velus Jones got drafted. He's been a total bust in the NFL. Like, I hate to say it, but it's not. I mean, he was a second round pick, I think, and he's not with the Bears anymore. Jalen Hyatt hasn't got his chance. He really didn't even play in New York, so we don't know what he can or can't do. But like Malik Neighbors was a first round draft pick and had over 1,000 receiving yards in that same offense. There's something to that, right? Like, he forced his way onto the field. If you're good enough, they're not going to be able to keep you off the field. And I'm not saying Jalen Hyatt's not good enough, but maybe there's some limitations in what he can do because of the time at Tennessee. Cedric Tillman's been kind of up and down with the Browns. Like, we haven't seen a wide receiver come from this offense and thrive in the NFL. So if you're a recruit right now, where are you going to go? Are you going to go to LSU? Like, yeah, Brian Kelly's not winning a championship there. He's underperforming when it comes to expectations relative to the talent he's had. But the receivers from that offense do come out and play well immediately in the NFL, even from the Kelly era with Neighbors and Brian Thomas. Ohio State, Clemson, Georgia, even like Ladd McConkey. Like, we've seen guys come from these other college offenses and have pretty quick success in the NFL. And we haven't seen that yet from Tennessee. And I'm not saying they can't. I'm just saying, until there's something to point to, that's something that everybody's going to use against you. So you want to see somebody come from this offense and thrive in the NFL. Like, I think that has to happen for that not to be something that's used against you in recruiting. Like, Dante Thornton needs to go be a guy. But we even heard with Dante Thornton, this whole process, he was very vocal about it. And vocal to the point that Tennessee edited out a comment that he made from their official pro day video that they sent out, a comment that he made about not running pro style routes. If you go back and watch that video, that line's not in there. You can go watch the videos from VolQuest and other media outlets that were on site. It's there in their videos. So it's like they're aware of the perception. And Thornton was pretty vocal. He even said it right after getting drafted by the Raiders. Like, didn't really have a chance to do that these last 2 years, these intermediate routes. And that's the questions the NFL teams had for him because of that. So there is something to it. And, I don't know what that means for the future, but they're going to have to shake that reputation somehow.
I think it would be worth considering on a Heupel's end, implementing things like that. I'm sure that he has a real feeling of like, it's my way or the highway. The system's gotten me this far, yada, yada. But you got to face down the barrel of what exactly you're looking at here. Because I think everything you said there is a good point. I think it's real. These guys look and they go, as you said, yeah, LSU is on a similar plane to Tennessee right now in terms of results. But I'm looking 10 years down the road, not 4. And what gets me to that second contract in the NFL in a more expeditious fashion.
Yeah, you want to be 25, 26 getting that contract.
Yeah, exactly. And unless you're Nico and his dad and you just don't think past the end of your nose, like, these guys are looking at the NFL, and I guarantee you that is a real conversation that's had. Exactly like you just said. They know, because they're leaving comments out of videos like that, as you said, trying to sort of memory hole some of this stuff. And it's real. It's real. Now we're ascribing intention there, and maybe it's not. I don't know, but hey, we just know the facts on the ground are that comment was in the VolQuest video, and it's not in the official one that came out from Tennessee. So that is what it is. And when you take stock of everything, and the way that this is going, it just seems so weird because we know Tennessee has the resources. We know they do. Rick Barnes reportedly just spent $3 to $4 million for 1 year for a 5-star player. Tennessee's got the money. It's not a money problem. It's not.
We should have extra money now, even with Jake Merklinger apparently getting a small pay raise today.
Yes, that did happen, and I like that. Maybe a little thank you thrown his way for putting up with this nonsense. But yeah, you're saving $1.5 million from what you were going to pay Nico, and now nothing is happening in the portal. And it's not just that; nothing's happening in the portal, even for Rodney Garner and your defensive backs, because here's some other updates. You had Mason Nelson from Western Michigan as defensive tackle. He visited, then committed to Vandy. That one didn't go over so well on Twitter, although maybe it's PR, maybe it's not. It was one of those where it was like, oh, Tennessee wasn't sure if he was a guy for them, yada, yada, yada. And think about that way you want to. That very well may have been the case that he just wasn't the take for Tennessee. But also, you had visits. There hasn't been as much straight up negative news when it comes to everybody else. There just hasn't been commits. You've had visits from Marcus Burris, my cousin. No, it's not my cousin. But someone who shares the same last name as me, from Indiana. Isaiah Johnson from Arizona. It's Josh Shell from Grand Valley State. Now, supposedly, this kid from USF is kind of in the mix, who obviously is playing, or at least last year played for your former offensive coordinator and Alex Golish down at USF. So there's sort of all of these things happening, and none of these dominoes are falling. And maybe in the next few weeks, it's like 6 guys commit, and who knows what's going to happen. But until I see it, I can only work with the facts that I have. And I would say this about the current situation that Tennessee is in. And that's my 1,000-foot view. I'm not in there with Heupel. I'm not in there with Spire Sports or anybody that's making any of these decisions. But where was any kind of urgency in December? When how many guys did they get in December? 3? 4?
And one of those might not even play this year. We don't know Amari Jefferson's status. He wasn't a participant in spring because he's coming off that hip injury. So that's a guy we were all super excited about that could be a non-factor in 2025. You got to win the portal. Like, there's no...
Yeah, you do.
You have to nail it. Like, you've got to go get elite talent. You're not beating that Ohio State team last year with the roster you had. You weren't even competitive against them. And I know the game was on the road and it was cold, and certainly that didn't make it any easier, but you didn't even make that a competitive game. So you've got to massively upgrade this roster if you want. Like, you can go win 10 games a year pretty much with Tennessee's approach. Like, you got to win some close games. You got to win maybe, on the road. You got to do that a little better, but you can win 10 games most every year with their same approach. But you're not going to make that jump to national championship, even to a Final Four team like a Texas or Notre Dame, even until you really start nailing this portal. And that's a big jump because there are less and less players available that can help you make that jump. There's only so many elite guys, and you got to figure out a way to get them. Like, that's the only way you're going to get to that next level and be competitive and deep into January. It's the only way.
100%. And it's just tough. It's tough to watch if it is what we think it is, where there's just, I don't know if a lack of urgency, however you want to frame it, they're not landing the guys. Whatever's happening there, if it's Heupel, if it's Spire, if it's a combination of both, if it's something in between, if it's guys evaluating Heupel's offense and they don't want to complain, whatever it is, it's just tough to watch when you have, Tony Vitello's going out and getting Chase Dolander, like one of the best dudes we've had in the last few years out of the transfer portal. And it was let's be completely honest about that situation. It was a tampering situation where he went and proactively got a guy who they played during the season. And he's went and gotten that guys for Vitello. Vitello himself did not, I'm sure. But went and got in his ear and went, hey, we like the way you look. Come and play at Tennessee. And he comes and plays at Tennessee, and he's a great pitcher for you. Dalton Connect. one of the best players Tennessee basketball has ever had was a 1-year transfer player. And then you look at football, even in football, the few transfers they've had, your best defensive player last year was a transfer. Do you see the value here? I mean, it's
and in retrospect,
McCoy, they nailed that one, and they give us more. Give us more of that.
In retrospect, looking back, I think one of the biggest mistakes, I'm not saying I would have done anything different because I think we were all on board with this approach after the 22 season. But kind of looking back now that we've had 2 full seasons after that to see how things played out, I think the right move after 22 would have been Hendon Hooker's gone. Let's go see if we can upgrade at quarterback and keep this momentum going. Because I know that Clemson game kind of excited us, but those bowl games are weird, and we know better than to take away anything from a bowl game, especially when you're starting against a true freshman quarterback like Tennessee was against Clemson. I think that was a mistake, not trying to go get a better quarterback and continue that wave of momentum that you had in 23. Because 23, with that defense that you had in 23, which won you games against Texas A&M, you never win that game without the defense because the offense did nothing. You had Alabama beat, and your offense faltered in the second half. If you upgrade that quarterback with that defense, I'm not saying that 23 teams winning a championship or anything, but you've got another season like 22 maybe where you win maybe 11, 12 games. Maybe you sneak into the playoff and the 14 playoff back then. Like, I don't know, but I think looking back, that really interrupted some important momentum that Tennessee had built up. And if there's anything that we've learned in this new age of college football is when you have momentum, you better seize it and you better take every opportunity you have to upgrade the roster because things can flip quickly because there's just so much parity in this sport right now. And if you have a few misses, it really seems to set you back. And as a result, I mean, I'm not saying that would change the outlook moving forward with the Nico stuff and everything that happened there, but I just think that was a missed opportunity to really take advantage of the momentum you built up in 22.
Yes. What I could not agree more overall. And maybe we're misreading the situation and they are trying their absolute damnedest to get guys behind the scenes. I'm just not seeing it. And it would just be really nice to see them land some big time guys. Cause when you look at Drummond McCoy, it was a good pickup.
It's a good evaluation too.
It was a great evaluation, but coming out, nobody was like, "Oh man, what a pickup by Tennessee." They were like, "Oh, that's a good piece. He played a decent chunk at Oregon State. That's yeah." And then it turned out that he's all SEC guy for you. But it's unless it falls in your lap like that, like let's go and get somebody and throw around the weight that Tennessee has financially. And here's facts on the ground. If the case is true that players are going and saying, I don't know that I want to play on that offense because I want to reach the NFL. Look at what Kentucky basketball just did. Kentucky basketball, if they don't go out and spend literally $20 million, they're on the straight up decline this coming year. They lost a bunch of dudes. No, and Pope is not recruiting at anywhere close to the same level that Calipari was, because really nobody does that. And so they had to go spend $20 million on what is frankly a middling roster of guys. And that might be the situation you're in with Tennessee football, is that you have to go, hey, guys have these concerns about our offense. Let's sweeten this deal. Let's raise that budget up to 25, 30 million bucks.
The budget's raising every day for every program. It seems like,
isn't it?
I mean, you got to keep up.
And maybe that's just where it has to go, where you have to, like I said, you got to look this thing in the face and just go, here's the reality of the situation. I need more dudes. For some reason, they're not choosing us. We have money to throw at this problem. Let's do it. And maybe you end up, people have been clowning Kentucky because they spent so much money and really didn't get any elite guys. But that may some people got to do that. Sometimes you got to do that. sometimes it's worth it. And maybe that's a situation you're in. I'm just trying to look at it from every angle possible. And so that's where you're at. We can talk circles around it all day, but until somebody actually commits or something else happens, is just kind of where we're at. I don't know if you have anything else profound there, Zach. that's it for the most part.
I know it's kind of, if you're a Tennessee fan, and I think most people watching probably are, it probably sounds negative, like we're down on everything they're doing and we're demanding change. It's not that at all. Like I'm a Josh Heupel fan. I love what he's done. I love what he brings and his approach and the culture and all those things. But, if you want to get this thing to the next level, there's just certain areas where you have to get better. And I think the general manager thing, I know a lot of people have kind of pushed back on that idea, but we've heard from people in other programs that worked in personnel departments that's like, hey, Tennessee's behind on this, right? Like that's not just something we're throwing out there. It seems like that's the feeling in the sport. And I think maybe that would help some of this. Like there's these other issues that we've talked about as far as why would you pick Tennessee or why you wouldn't pick Tennessee. But I think that singular voice, just that person who's their only job is to go out there and manage this roster, manage the problems. Like you shouldn't have these raises coming up in the spring. We've heard that too, right? Like that's something that a lot of programs are able to cut out. Like they don't really worry about players leaving in the spring because they kind of know the deal going into it and they get things taken care of and everybody's on the same page. And it feels like Tennessee, it's like, well, this player wants that. We got to try to appease them. Well, that player wants this. Maybe we can let them go. You got to have that stuff sorted out. Jacoby Thomas is not a player you should lose, honestly. And I don't know the entire situation there. Maybe it's his agent getting in his ear, promising more money, but I think that's a situation that the GM could help handle. But that's a guy you want on your roster. Like, I don't think he's going to be an all-SEC type player, right? But he played 260-some snaps last season. He's probably going to play more than that this season if he stayed. We know how important defensive back depth is. Playing walk-ons. Like, thank goodness for Will Brooks, but you were playing a walk-on at one point because of the depth issues there. So things like that, you got to have that stuff ironed out. And it can't be coming up late in the cycle where you're losing these guys that maybe if you would have approached it better, you could keep. So there's a lot there. I think Tennessee could do better, and just hopefully they're going to do some self-evaluation moving forward and figure out how to fix those issues. Because if you keep on with this approach, I mean, it's like a boat taking on water where you're throwing bucket loads of it out, but you're not really getting anywhere. It's just not going to work.
As you said, I mean, we've posted about this some on Twitter and different places. Austin Stanley, the A of A to Z Sports, posted something about it this week, and there's a lot of people in the comments saying whatever they said in terms of pushback. And I looked at all of it, and there were some good responses, and people that said some stuff like, "There's a reason every NFL team has a GM. It's because you have the football guys." And you have the guys that worry about the not football stuff about a football team. I mean, it's a whole other side of it that in college, those lines are blurred so much more than the front office and the coaches are in the NFL. And again, in the same way, there is a reason that, 70% of Power 5, Power 4 teams in college football now have a GM. There's a very good reason for that. And maybe it's something that needs to be handed down to Heupel from Danny White or something. Maybe it has to be imposed on him if Heupel doesn't want to do it. If he's just, kind of control freak, I don't want to give up whatever. Again, that's complete conjecture on my part. Whatever it may be, but maybe it's a situation where you got to go, hey, Josh, look, man, like we gotta catch up with the times. Let's get there. Because I think it could be good with Heupel when it comes to maybe this offense, or when it comes to maybe your offensive line coach, having somebody in the room who's not a yes man, who will go, hey, here's a weak link. Let's face this head on. Let's take this on because we need to. Because if we don't, you're going to continue to get guys that say, oh, I don't want to come play in that offense. Or you're going to continue to have a lack of development on the offensive line, as Michael is saying here. And he said a lack of development at offensive line and wide receiver. That's true. Wide receiver both. And maybe it's a situation where after this year you need to move on for those guys, but Heupel just has this hyper loyalty to guys that he likes, and you need another voice in the room who's highly paid and highly skilled and can go, hey man, we got to do something here. We got to shake this up because this isn't working. And I wonder if it's eventually going to become required or it's going to be the man's undoing. I certainly hope not. I really hope that doesn't turn out to be the case, but don't, man. Who was it? Was it Pruitt loved Will Friend, right?
Mm-hmm.
And who's the guy with Butch?
Don Mahoney.
Dude, yeah. But it wasn't there. There was other situations, some of his assistant coaches where you were just like, why are we hanging on to these guys? What are we doing? Like it can be a complete undoing for a coach if you're not careful and you don't take a good hard look in the mirror. So
development. I mean, I
think the GM thing is big.
Yeah, you got to be able to recruit, but development is huge. And it's like with Kelsey Pope. Like I'm not throwing shade at the guys. I think he's recruited really well, right? Like they've landed some really good talent at wide receiver. But like people said, like the development just hasn't been there the last couple of years, really at that position. And he's such a young guy. I mean, there's so much that you learn with years of experience in college football. I think there's a lot of value in having somebody that has a lot of experience and has been around a lot of different offenses and a lot of different systems. And maybe you need some more of that. The same thing at offensive line. Like you haven't seen the development that we want to see. I know Heupel and Ellerbe are close, like they're in lockstep with each other when it comes to the offense. And Ellerbe has some, a lot of say in the run game and how that's called. And that's a big part of what they do. So I don't think it's just go get the best offensive line coach and plug him in. I think it's got to fit within what Heupel wants to do. But this is going into year 5. Like I think if David Sanders does not develop into a first-round draft pick, you're going to have really hard time attracting elite offensive line recruits moving forward. Like this is kind of I want to say your last chance to go develop a guy, but there's going to be some serious questions. Like noise is going to get pretty loud if Sanders doesn't pan out. And, he's about as close to a can't miss guy as you can get. So there's just some things there. There's a lot. Like this is kind of where every coach gets to, right? Like year 4, year 5, it's where Butch got to, where he was just good enough to hold on, and it kind of all fell apart there in year 5 on him. I don't think Heupel's anywhere near that. But this is where you've got to take a look back at the last 5 years and say, okay, how do we get this thing to the next level? Because it's Tennessee. We want to compete for a national championship. What do we need to do better? Like that's what Nick Saban was so good at. That's why he had such great longevity. Like a lot of other teams had a lot of good talent too, but it was always Alabama that was there in the mix. Just every single year, just about, with Saban at the helm. And it's because he was constantly pushing to get better and to improve whatever it was that Alabama did. It was never, we've just done it this way. It's the only way we're going to do it. Like we saw his offenses evolve as he was there over the years to keep up and get ahead. And, it's just, that's what you have to do in this sport. You can't keep doing the same thing over and over. The sport's evolving, and Heupel and his staff are going to have to find a way to get ahead of that at this point.
Yes, they are. It's, again, we don't say any of this stuff to be negative at all. I say it because you see that they're close.
Yeah.
You see that it's right there. You made the playoff this past year.
Yeah.
And I mean, you are right there. And so you want those elite dudes that maybe you need. You want to get those elite dudes and you want to keep them. And I think a GM would help with that. And then you want to help yourself by maybe evolving offensively and continuing on the path that you've gone on defense. I think it's not a coincidence that the defense has suddenly become elite. That's where you're seeing the development. That's where you're seeing these steps forward. And it's not happening as much on the offense, despite the fact that Heupel is the offensive guy. He was this offensive guru. There's something to all of that. And so it's just stuff to consider because you're right there. You have been a 10-win team twice in the last 3 years, and you made the college football playoff this last year. Go and take that extra step. Get these elite guys out of the portal. Get these elite guys on the recruiting trail. Let's go. And maybe improve your staff. Maybe revolutionize your offense a little bit there. or evolve your offense. Maybe that's a better word there. Evolve your offense a little bit. And yeah, just food for thought. That's how I'll that's how I'll frame it. That's because it's really what it is. I mean, Lord knows the guy might do none of it, and we'll be right where we are.
I mean, it's just our perception of it. We've seen,
Yeah.
like all of us, fans, whoever, if you've covered the team, whatever it is, like we've seen the ups and downs over the last 17 years since the end of the Fulmer era. We know the cycles this goes in and kind of what you got to do to be elite. And that's all it is. Like, what do you got to do to push through to get to that level?
Yeah, Caleb says he's only been here for 4 seasons. Hopefully he adjusts. Exactly.
Yeah, I'm not saying that he won't by any means. Like I said, I like Heupel. I
like
rooting for the guy, and I think he is the right guy. But just like with any coach, you just got to find a way.
Yes, you do. Michael's right here. He said stockpiling talent under the Saban model is nearly impossible now due to the modern conditions of an IL. That's 100% true.
Yeah, that's
the
why
talent has
Georgia's
absolutely spread out.
That's why that Georgia freight train kind of slowed there that Kirby Smart had going there for a couple of years. I mean, that's the biggest reason. He just wasn't. He was kind of taking that torch from Saban, and that's, Michael's exactly right. That's not going to be a thing anymore.
You lose that depth. That was the absolute separator for those Georgia teams, because it was just waves of 5-star guys, and suddenly it's just one wave of 5-star guys.
And that's hurt Tennessee too, because I think Tennessee was doing a good job of starting to build some of that depth. Even in the early years of the portal, in 21, 22, things weren't as crazy as they are now, where it's just this mass, exit your roster and go see what else is out there. These last couple of years has really hurt Tennessee, because I think they were starting to get into that area where they were building some really nice depth. And now all these guys that you lose and you're like, they weren't going to start anyway. They weren't an elite player. No, maybe they weren't, but they're a guy that can go play 25, 30 snaps for you in the middle of a game in the third quarter and keep your guys fresh. And, or when there's injuries, step in a pinch like that. That's super important.
It is. We'll see what happens as far as that goes. Otherwise, you did have the NFL draft this weekend. Tennessee had players drafted. James Pierce went first round to the Falcons. I believe Heupel's first round pick. Omar Norman Lott went to the Chiefs in the second. Dante Thornton fourth to the Raiders. Dylan Sampson to the Browns in the fourth. And then some UDFAs, undrafted free agents. Amari Thomas to the Saints. Elijah Simmons to the Cardinals. And Will Brooks to the Chiefs. Love that for Will Brooks, man. Walk on to the Chiefs. That is, or walk on at Tennessee to now UDFA with the Chiefs. Like, what a journey for that guy. I love that. I mean, you have other opportunities. I didn't see today. Was any Brew, McCoy?
I haven't seen anything. I've been away this bulk of the afternoon. I know John Campbell got a couple of mini camp invites with the Dolphins and the 49ers. That was your right tackle last season. I'm not sure if anyone else did. Yeah, Cooper Mays. That's a tough one because he's a little bit undersized, I think, for the NFL, but he was a good player and obviously a ton of experience playing the center position. I would like to see him get a chance. I think he could battle his way onto a roster, but his size might be working against him there.
Yeah, but that's a good sign. But I would also say, kind of to our point there, is to what we were just talking about. Is it a coincidence that your top 2 guys that went in the first 2 rounds were defensive and not offensive? Maybe not. But hey, just an observation. That's all. And then
Michael pointed out that Darnell Wright was a first-round pick, but that was I think Charlie was pointing out that was Heupel's first recruit. That was because Pierce was signed by Heupel. Yeah. Darnell Wright was signed by Jeremy Pruitt. But yeah, he took off after Heupel's staff came in. To be fair, those last 2 years.
Yeah, even two first-round picks so far in his tenure. We gotta get those numbers up. That's a sign.
I tweeted
when you
sitting there watching Saturday. It was like this draft is like a reminder of that Ohio State playoff game every 5 minutes because it's constantly. Oh yeah, I remember that guy from that terrible December playoff game. Everything they were doing is like, and that's what those are the teams that are going to win. The teams that put the most players in the NFL.
That they had dudes that were NFL caliber. And it's still, it blew my mind during the season. It blew everybody's mind, I guess. How did you lose to Michigan with that team? How? That's so crazy. And almost, how did you lose to Oregon? Now, that was an away game at Oregon, and Oregon was a good football team.
Yeah.
But I mean,
they were still finding their way
how
at
did
that
you?
point. And I think that Michigan, like we talked about this, I think, before, that Michigan game just kind of flipped the switch, and they got everybody on the same page, and they were a different team there in the playoff.
Yeah, no doubt. But maybe soon. Let's start grinding on the transfer portal trail, recruiting trail, and actually try to change things up here. Maybe. And we'll see what happens. Now, we got to touch on basketball a little bit. Basketball team, on the other hand, out of the transfer portal, has shaped up pretty decently so far. Jalen Carey, Jacoby. There's too many Jacobys. I keep thinking Jacoby Thomas. Jacoby Gillespie is your point guard out of the portal. And Jalen Carey, power forward, small forward-ish. And then Nate Ament, mega 5-star plus all everything. According to On3, number 2 player in America for this past year. The only guy higher was the guy that BYU gave like $15 million to come play or something. They are spending unreal amounts of money in Provo, at least on basketball this coming year. But shaping up pretty nicely for the basketball team, except you don't have a shooting guard yet, and kind of in the same as football. Are we worried? Not in the same way as I am with football. I would say you whiffed on a couple of guys for that spot. Rodney Rice went to USC because it was just a fat paycheck. I think we talked about that last week on the show. And then you've had a couple of guys that seemed like Tennessee was in on, but it just didn't work. Something happened. But then there is this factor, and this is what I'll ask you about, Zach. Jordan Gainey posted on Instagram, or was it the person he was in the video with posted on Instagram? I didn't get the exact clear story here, but the Instagram post read 5th year loading ... or something along those lines, question mark maybe. And then it was Jordan Gainey dancing in the video, and people were like, oh, does he have a 5th year? Is he coming back? What's happening? Oh my gosh, holy cow. It would be huge if Jordan Gainey could come back. No doubt about it. He would exactly fill that shooting guard spot. I mean, he would be the perfect guy for that. Obviously has tons of play under his belt. He got just better and better throughout the season. He ended up being an absolute dude for you this past year. Do you give any validity to that, Zach? I believe it would take a court ruling for him to be able to come back potentially, but it might come down. It might come down.
I mean, look, we're in the era of college sports where I think everything's on the table at this point because, John Campbell just played 7 years of college football somehow. I don't get it. It seems like anything is possible. And the kid from Auburn, right? Like, what's his name?
No, it's Baker Bizarro, Chad.
Yeah,
Baker
yeah.
Bizarro.
I mean, you would think that it could happen for sure. I'll believe it when I see it at this point because you just never know what's real, what's not, what can happen, what will magically happen with a court ruling. We're in unprecedented times. So, 5 years ago, I'd be like, well, no way. We know how the NCAA works, and this is this, and this is that, and that's how it's going to be. But now you just really don't know. But if it does happen, like, would you be okay with him being like your shooting guard addition to the team without going after somebody? Because imagine like you're adding a transfer and that transfer is Jordan Gainey coming in. Like if that was the guy that was available, how excited would you be? Okay, this is going to be our guy.
After the way that he played this season and how he became at some points your most reliable scorer, like I guess it comes down to this. Most of these transfers, I didn't watch every bounce of the basketball this past season that they had. I did for Jordan Gainey. And so I can say I would be super excited about having Jordan Gainey back. but maybe I should be just as excited for the guy today that was visiting was Omari Abram from Louisiana Tech. Maybe I should be just as excited for him at 12 points a game. I think an above 40% from beyond 3-point shooting mark. And, maybe I should be excited in the same way, but
he might be the guy. He might end up being
from the sound of it, if I'm reading the tea leaves, some of the quotes I've been seeing coming out, it kind of feels like this is the dude they're going to end up getting. But they should hold a spot for Gainey. If this court ruling comes down and suddenly he has a 5th-year option, it would also give Zakai Ziegler a 5th-year option too. Although he declared for the NBA draft, he could still come back, I think, but he declared for the draft or whatever. He just said that he's going to be giving it a go. But I think that would be a pretty powerful roster if you got this kid from Louisiana Tech, got Gainey back, who is a dynamic scorer. You have in Jacoby Gillespie a point guard who obviously is not ingratiated into your system and has all the leadership and everything that you saw from Zakai, but frankly, a guy who is much taller and probably a better scorer with the basketball in his hands, purely because of the height thing with Zakai. It just was what it was. He had a hard time finishing. The
guy did a lot more than any other human that size was going to do, right? Like it
was unbelievable.
Yeah. Some of the times that he was able to get to the basket and score against big men was pretty impressive.
It was. It absolutely was. And so I think if you can have everybody currently, plus maybe this guy from Louisiana Tech, plus Gainey, maybe an additional somebody that we just don't know about yet. I don't know. There will be they expanded the number of scholarship roster spots for college basketball this season to 14, 16, something. We can have more players now. You could have a pretty special basketball team on your hands coming up here. Because I don't want to project too much, but Nate Ament should be one of the best players of the Barnes era with just the way that he looks on tape. Go watch this dude play basketball. He can nail threes. He has incredible post moves. He's so smooth with the basketball in his hands. It's beautiful.
And Rick Barnes, who does not dish out compliments just randomly, right? Like he's pretty tough to get compliments from. He's speaking pretty glowingly about this kid, which makes you think, like, of course you think he's special because of how highly rated he is, but when Barnes is saying some of that stuff, that's the one guy that, we hear all the coach speak at all these different people talk about players and how good they look. But when Barnes says it, you kind of stop and you're like, oh, okay, this guy could be the real deal. And that he could be the kind of guy that carries your team. I mean, that's a lot, but
absolutely.
That's what Cooper, I'm not saying he's Cooper Flag or anything like that, but that was one of the best recruits in the country. And that's what he did last season, right? Like he carried Duke almost all the way. Sometimes that's what you need. And maybe that's what gets Barnes over the hump.
Maybe it is. I mean, you combine that flash in the pan, super elite talent with a Jacoby Gillespie who's been around the block and will hopefully be a really good point guard for you, with other transfers who are really good, with the guys coming back. I actually think Tennessee's front court is really shaping up. They're going to have to get, I will say, of a mint. He's going to have to gain some weight.
Yeah.
He's pretty thin. Tennessee has a really good strength program, really good strength coach. And so you get some weight on him, and then you bring back everybody plus Jalen Carey. I mean, nobody so far, and knock on wood, nobody said they're going to transfer yet. You get Estrella back, get Cade back. It's Akpara. I mean, you got a set of dudes.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get that shooting guard position figured out. I don't know that if they end up getting this addition for Louisiana Tech, I don't know that I'm just head over heels. Holy cow, what a great pickup! But if you combine him with Gainey being able to come back,
if a mint can be your scorer, right? Like if he can be the guy that's really carrying the offensive load, then you don't need, like last season it was Chaz Lanier stepping into that Dalton Connect role. Like you don't You don't need a shooting guard to necessarily go be Chaz Lanier or Dalton Connect if Amit is able to be your go-to scorer like that. And really, that's what Tennessee's been missing the last, outside of our last season, really, was just that guy in crunch time that you could count on every single game. Like, there were games where guys popped up. There were games where Gainey came through. Lanier had some big games, but it was never really that. And even, we thought Dalton Connect had some games where he didn't come through necessarily in that one season. But if you have that guy that just every game, you're getting at least 20 from him in a big game or 25, whatever it is, like that would be huge. And you don't need that shooting guard to necessarily be such a high level guy.
Exactly. You wouldn't have to have nearly as many of those games where you go like, how many times this past season did we sit at halftime and you go, well, we're down by 3. If somebody will just step up in the second half, I don't know who it'll be, but if somebody just could, if you could have that guy that is more that Dalton Connect, and you just go, give that man the basketball and let's figure it out. It's a game changer. It's a total game changer. Eric might be getting out over his skis a little bit saying Kevin Durant 2.0, but I
one of the best scorers of all time.
I hope he's Kevin Durant 2.0. I don't know.
In the history of basketball.
Yeah, that would be amazing. No doubt about it. That would be incredible. Another good point here. Good thing for a Mint is the front court depth because he can play the wing instead of down low. Yes. And if you watch his tape, he's got some serious chops shooting the basketball from long range and mid range. Man, if he could come in and make 12-foot jumpers, that would give me so high. That's such a lost art. Such a lost art.
Saw that little glimmer in your eye where you started thinking about what could be there for a moment.
Just that when you see a big man who can step out, not all the way out to the 3 even, but who can just step out. First of all, that's an NBA trait, period.
Yeah.
The good NBA big man can do that. But in college basketball, that is non-existent. That doesn't exist anymore. It existed for a little while, but really no more. God, that would be so amazing. I want it so badly.
Yeah, just go be Kevin Durant / Tim Duncan, and
that's all we ask.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing. Our expectations aren't that high, I guess I do have to say now I did get my graphics figured out before we finish with talk about the baseball team. We got to talk about what the heck happened in Baton Rouge this weekend, and if we should be genuinely worried about where we're at with Tennessee baseball. I do have to tell you, you see Zen Sports at the bottom of the screen there. Zen Sports will be no more when VIP Play is introduced. There's the graphic at the bottom of the screen that I needed earlier. Finally got that figured out. And you have a similar deal with VIP Play. Your first bet of $5 or more, you'll get $100 in bonus bets. But the only caveat at this exact moment is VIP Play has not gone live yet. Go to VIPPlayApp.com and you can find out more. But VIP Play will offer 200 plus leagues to wager on in all of your favorite bet types. And there's the VIP Player Club sweepstakes, where every bet you make on VIP Play gets you entries into the monthly sweepstakes, and you earn $1. You'll earn 1 entry per bet, 1 entry per dollar bet, and 10 times your entries on parlays. And then you can bet in Tennessee with the VIP guarantee. With VIP Play, everyone plays like a VIP. That's 24/7 customer service from real people, and earning your entries with the Players Club sweepstakes every month. So go over to VIPPlayApp.com. You can learn more about the coming VIP Play app. It will be coming soon to Tennessee exclusively. Learn more and claim your early welcome bonus or VIP Players Club status. VIPPlayApp.com. All right. There's that. We'll go back to Zen Sports, but just remember, Zen Sports is becoming VIP Play. All righty. Baseball goes to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and this should have been a series win. This should have been a series win in the first 2 days. I'm not saying that just as an embittered, we should have won that one. No, literally, you should have won this series 110%. Tennessee had a 3-0 lead in the 9th inning and got walked off in the 9th inning, 6-3 in the first game. I mean, just absolutely blew it sky high. And really, that was on the back of two errors in the 9th by Dean Curley. It was so frustrating. It was also at like 2 a.m. Just makes you want to throw up. Tennessee should have won that one. And then the second day should have been to win the series because Tennessee went in the second day and manhandled LSU. Went in, took care of business. It was as easy as a win could be against one of the best teams in America. And I mean, you held Curiel, their best hitter, to no hits. It was the first time in 43 games where he went hitless. Didn't get on base. It was some crazy streak that he had. And so they did a great job in game 2 and then got absolutely blown out in game 3, which frankly, if you would have just won game 1, wouldn't have mattered. I think everybody's in a much better mood today. If you just would have held on in game 1, it was a silly situation. And then now you have this really bitter taste in your mouth because you got blown out in the 3rd game. I don't know. How'd you feel this weekend, Zach?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I mean, you didn't get swept. That's the biggest thing when you go down to Baton Rouge. Anytime you play those guys, it's always going to be a tough series down there. And you've had success in the past. That Friday night one, right? Like you said, you should have won that game. If you play clean defense and get the job there in the 9th, it's a series win. Nobody's complaining, and you were so close. I mean, you're 3 outs away. So it's just one of those things where it's not like you went down there and just got blown out in 3 games or didn't show up. You had some mistakes that cost you that game and got you in a situation there where LSU was able to walk you off. It's tough. It doesn't make me panic about the team by any means because you're right there nearly winning a series in Baton Rouge, and that would have been massive. It sucks that to me, in a vacuum, if you're just looking at this and you don't think about any other series this season, you're just like, yeah, that's a tough one. You hate that happened. So I don't think it's a situation where I just take up this grand takeaway about the team. I do think you need to have your best defensive players in the right positions, whatever that is at the end of the game. Set yourself up that way. Curley's glove has been kind of inconsistent at times, right? Like he's not your best guy on the infield. You love his bat when he comes through, but that's just a situation where I think you want your best defensive players out there. I think Tony Vitello kind of alluded to that after the loss on Sunday. It's like, hey, it's time to stop being Mr. Nice Guy, and you just got to put the guys out there that they're going to win no matter what, because he's been trying to balance playing time all season, which is tough. If there's any takeaway I have is that there's nothing promised for this team, right? Like I think when they play at their best, we've seen that they can beat anybody in the country and they could go win the whole thing in Omaha. But I think it's just as possible that they could fail to advance, out of a regional and get sent home. And maybe the rest of the season even goes south and they don't host. They got some work to do now to ensure that they're able to host. Yes. So that's something moving forward. Like you want that, right? Like you don't want to have to go on the road and try to advance. So it's just, hey, it's going to be a tough deal for this team. I know coming out the way they got off to the hot start, we thought like, oh, okay, this team's going to be in Omaha no matter what. And it's just kind of a reminder. It's like, it doesn't work like that at all. And we know that based on 22. Like, yeah, you got to come through when it matters late in the season, but this team's not going to waltz their way into Omaha, and they've got some stuff they need to take care of defensively, because it's just you can't have errors like that in the 9th inning. You just that kills. Fortunately, they came back Saturday the way they did. Like I think that said a lot about the team, because it would have been easy to kind of get down and lose and get swept in that series after you lose that way on Friday night, especially on the road. So I think that was encouraging, but there's some stuff they got to get better at, and I think we'll see Vitello approach late innings a little bit differently moving forward.
I hope he does, and yeah, Dean Curley, he's got to be DH. Like, let's be honest about what's happening there, because
you can't just stick anybody in. Like, no matter how talented they are. Like Eric brings up Antigua, like that's the one true shortstop you have, and maybe the only true pro level glove at shortstop you've seen on this team in the Vitello era. Like that's the kind of defense you got to play that position at the next level, because everything that you get to has to be an out.
And Curley's been a shortstop, but you're not replacing Ariel Antigua with Dean Curley in that spot. I mean, if you really want my opinion, I would also take Dean Curley out of leadoff and make it Gavin Keelan, but far be it from me. Tony Vitello has won a national championship as a coach, and I have done nothing of that sort. So I will trust him as far as that goes. It just feels like, I mean, you just have so much more pop with Keelan, or even if you went Hunter Inslee or something, like you put Hunter Inslee in that cleanup spot just because he's so reliable, so clutch in so many spots. But, it just felt like they needed a little bit of a freshening up at that leadoff spot all season. You just kind of gone, man, he can have hits. He actually, ironically, in that Sunday game, Curley had a nice game at the plate. But, he can have nice games, but it just... I guess it's easy to say that after you had literally the best leadoff guy and maybe the best hitter in all of America last year, who's going to go on to play MLB baseball, and Christian Moore. I mean, it's easy to have expectations like that this year, but maybe I'm off base there, Zach. I don't want to dog on the kid. He's one of the leaders on your team, but
no, and he's going to help this team win some games down the stretch. Like that's just
he is
defensively. You got to have your best options on the field, especially late in games. You can't hide a glove anywhere on the field in the ninth inning. The baseball
Period.
will find you.
I mean, the tough part is this: if Manny Marin is playing third base like he did in the next two games, Tennessee wins game one. Like that's just the facts on the ground. Without those errors, Tennessee wins that game. Pretty much point blank period. So that's where you're at. Am I worried about the rest of the season? I'm not, because this team has the juice to make it back to Omaha. This team has the juice to win a national championship this year. You look at the way that they played earlier in the season when they were popping on absolutely all cylinders, and the guys are there because I guess the way that I look at it is, do you have 2 games worth of dudes at an elite level? And Tennessee does. That third game right now, especially on the mound, is iffy. You run out of some juice. Tegan Kuntz has had some good games. AJ Russell is not 100% back to himself yet. Krinzel does he have like mono or something? What is happening there? He's ill, but he's been good, but he's out right now with whatever illness is happening. And you just don't have as much juice on the mound in that third day. But if you have 2 good days worth of guys, I mean, that's how you win a national championship in college baseball, is that you win the 2 out of 3 series. Like who can beat you in 2 out of 3 games? And as of right now, the thing that is killing me that this team does, like that Sunday game, okay, the pitching just didn't match up. LSU blasted you. Their best hitter got everything he wanted. That's one thing. But when Liam Doyle goes out and puts on a magical performance like he did on Friday night, and you blow it the way that you did, that is just absolutely disgusting. It cannot happen. That cannot happen. That's how you get bounced in a super regional. That's how you lose your hosting ability. That's how the season goes wrong, is when you have maybe the best pitcher in America, and Tennessee does. Do not make any bones about that. Liam Doyle is maybe the best dude in this entire deal. And you can't. When he goes out there and he puts on such an excellent game, you can't lose that game.
If your Friday starter wins the pitching matchup and you drop that game, that's tough. Those are Well, I said it was impressive that they bounced back and answered the way they did on Saturday. But you're right. Like, you can't, even on the road, if your Friday guy goes out and he shoves and he's the guy that, shuts the other team down, you can't give up 6 runs in the bottom of the ninth.
Right. And Marcus Phillips has been more up and down than Liam Doyle. I mean, of course, like I said, Liam Doyle is one of the best dudes doing it right now. And he's been more up and down, but that game on Saturday was maybe his best of the entire season, and Tennessee cashed in on it.
He bounced back after he grooved those 2 BP fastballs to start off with the seventh inning, whatever it was, made it 3 there, and it's like, okay, is he losing it here, and he bounced back well after that and got a couple of outs. But those are going to happen. Solo home runs. I mean, Matt Scherzer, who was coached by Tony Vitello in college, has said it before. Like, he doesn't mind giving up solo home runs. If you're in the zone and not walking guys, that's going to happen sometimes, right? Like, hitters are they're going to guess right, and they're going to hit one out every now and then. Keep guys off base and limit them to solo shots, and that's not a big deal.
Yeah, when the opportunity presents itself like it did in those first two games at LSU, you have to cash in at every opportunity. And I think between Doyle and Phillips, and then the guys behind them in the bullpen in those first 2 days, you have two elite sets of guys. And I think at the top end of their ability, your lineup at the plate is elite too. As I said, as you saw earlier in the season, the amount of pop that they have is more than enough to win games against anybody in America. But you got to bring it when they bring it, and you can't make these errors, and there's just a bunch of stuff that you can't do. It doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, when you look at the way that Tennessee won Game 3 against Texas A&M to win that national title last year, Lord knows it doesn't have to be perfect. No. You nearly gave the thing away, but it does have to be good enough to win those games. And that sort of was the story last year. It was like, was Kirby Cannell elite? No, he was not. But when you put him in there in the 8th inning, the guy made the plays. Like,
he got
when the ball. Exactly. He got the outs when it mattered every time, all the way to win a national title. So, hey, they have it in there. You just got to harness it. Arkansas has been sucking too. They were God's gift to baseball for a couple of weeks there, and suddenly they've lost 3 straight series. The only one that hasn't fought, and LSU has too. LSU got swept by Auburn, who have to play next, by the way. But the only one that hasn't fallen off is Texas.
Yeah, we thought A&M had awoken, and they just got swept.
Yep, got swept by Texas at Texas. That's a powerful baseball team. Mm-hmm. They are good. They did lose their ace pitcher for the season. That's tough. Yeah, that is unfortunate for them, but I think they have guys behind that.
At least you did. Well, you did Saturday. You did empty the box that one night, right? Like, you sent the LSU fans to the exit en masse after that last home or whatever it was that put Tennessee up by quite a margin. So, you take that tough loss. Sunday was Sunday. You had something positive there, I think, to build off of with Saturday.
We'll see what happens. Auburn comes to town. I would say if you can win this series and you can win the Vandy series the next 2 weeks, you'll probably be pretty much locked in to hosting. You can't get swept by Arkansas. I would say that.
Yeah.
But if you win all 3 series, without a doubt, not only are you going to host, you'll be a top 8 seed. I mean, you're going to be right there. But win these 2, you'll pretty much be right on hosting. And I mean, all things considered, you're not that far off even from the mark you had last year. What, maybe 3 losses off of where you were at this time last year? Like, it's not like you're crazily behind and everything's falling apart. Just last year was so good that it's a hard target to match. So that's it. Charlie Burris, Zach Reagan. Anything else for the folks at home before we bounce out of here, Zach?
That should do it. I think we about covered it all on this one.
I think we did. Another longer episode. So there's that. Thanks to everybody who hung out with us. New, old. We love everybody that drops in comments and goes back and forth with us. It's always a great time. At Charlie_Burris, at TNT. You know where to find us. Subscribe, notification bells, do all of these things. You got us over 3,000 subscribers on YouTube. We greatly appreciate that. Go check out all the stuff that we got brewing over on YouTube. That's it. Thanks again for watching, and we will talk to y'all next week.
See you guys later.